Welcome to Midnight Haunting Radio, where chilling tales of the paranormal come to life. Dim your lights, pull your blanket tight, and let the eerie whispers draw you into a world where paranormal tales lurk in every shadow. You drive long enough through the desert, and you start to realize how quiet the world can really get. I'm not talking about city quiet or even the stillness of a forest at night. I mean desert quiet. The kind that hums in your ears until you start to think, maybe it's not silence at all. Maybe it's the sound of the earth itself, waiting for something to happen. I'd been driving trucks for 15 years when I took that route through Nevada, Route 93. Long, empty, and mean. It's the kind of stretch that looks the same for hours. Sand, rocks, and black ribbon asphalt is cutting through the middle of nowhere. I was hauling refrigerated goods from Vegas up to Eerie. I'd done the route before, plenty of times. But that night was different. It was colder than usual. The kind of cold that sneaks in even with the heat cranked up. It was a little past 2 a.m. The moon was out, but weak. Just a sliver hanging over the desert. My headlights reached maybe 100 feet ahead, catching dust that drifted like snow. And that's when I saw her. A woman standing by the side of the road. At first I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks. I'd been driving nearly 8 hours straight, the road hypnotizing me with its endless gray. But no, she was there. Right near mile marker 104, where the highway dips and the sand turns darker. She was wearing a white dress, tattered and thin, fluttering just enough to make me think there was wind. But there wasn't any. Her hair hung down over her face. She had her thumb out. Hitchhiking. Now, I've seen some strange things out on those roads. Drifters, stranded tourists, people you can't tell are real until you're right up on them. But something about her made my stomach knot up. Still, you don't leave someone stranded out there. Not in that cold, not in the middle of the desert. So I slowed down. As my lights hit her, she lifted her head. Her eyes caught the glare, pale like gray glass. And for a second, I swear she smiled. I rolled to a stop beside her and leaned over. "You all right, ma'am?" I asked through the window. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you take me to Crystal Springs?" Crystal Springs. The name didn't even ring a bell, but she said it with such certainty that I assumed it was one of those tiny towns you pass through and forget about. I unlocked the passenger door and she climbed in. That's when I noticed she wasn't wearing shoes, just bare, dusty feet. Her dress looked old, like something out of a black and white movie. She sat perfectly straight, folding her hands in her lap, staring straight ahead. I pulled back onto the road. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the engine and the low, static hum of my CB radio. After a few miles, I said, "So, Crystal Springs. That near Alamo?" She turned her head slightly, her face half lit by the dashboard glow. "It's home," she said softly. That was it. Just home. The way she said it, though, it gave me chills. I nodded, trying to shake off the unease. "Well, I'll get you there safe." She smiled faintly. "Thank you." Then silence again. The road stretched endlessly, empty as ever. The desert on either side looked like a black ocean. Every now and then I'd glance at her. She didn't move much, just sat there staring at the passing dark. The longer I looked, the more I noticed something strange. Her skin looked pale, but not pale like someone who's cold or tired. More like porcelain. Smooth. Too smooth. My CB crackled suddenly, breaking the silence. A burst of static hissed through the cab, followed by faint, distorted speech, like someone trying to tune in. Then a voice. Female, soft. He never came home. I froze. The woman beside me didn't react. She didn't even blink. I turned the volume knob down, pretending nothing happened. Maybe it was a random frequency pickup. Happens sometimes, especially in the desert. But I couldn't shake the words. He never came home. A few minutes later, I tried breaking the silence again. You got family waiting for you? She turned to me slowly, her head tilting in a way that felt unnatural. He's waiting, she said. I just need to find him. That cold feeling crept back into my chest. Your husband? She looked out the window again. He was supposed to come home, but he didn't. Her tone was distant, like she was talking to herself more than to me. I gripped the wheel tighter. My knuckles went white. The temperature inside the cab started to drop, even though the heater was still running. I could see my breath fogging the glass. I reached for the heater dial. And that's when it happened. In the corner of my eye, I saw her reflection in the windshield, but it wasn't moving with her. Her real body sat still beside me, but in the reflection, she was staring directly at me, eyes wide open, mouth moving silently. I looked back at her seat. She was gone. The seatbelt was still buckled. Door locked. No sound. I slammed the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. I grabbed my flashlight, flung open the door, and stepped out into the freezing night. The desert stretched out in every direction, empty, silent, not a footprint on the sand. But then I noticed something. In the beam of my flashlight, the sand beside the truck looked disturbed, like someone had been standing there a moment ago, and faintly, I could see the shape of bare feet. I backed up slowly. Hello? I called out. No response, just the whisper of wind moving across the dunes. I climbed back into the cab, locked the door, and took a shaky breath. My hands were trembling as I shifted the truck back into gear. When I finally reached the next rest stop, a small diner with flickering neon lights, I parked and went inside. The place was almost empty, except for another trucker and a tired-looking waitress. I sat at the counter, ordered coffee, and tried to calm down. After a few minutes, I told the trucker sitting next to me what happened. He listened quietly, eyes never leaving mine. When I said Crystal Springs, his expression changed. Let me guess, he said. White dress. No shoes. Soft voice. I froze. Yeah, you've seen her? He nodded slowly. Everybody who's been on this route long enough has. You picked up the lady in white. He told me she'd been haunting that stretch of highway since the 1950s. Her fiancé died in a wreck near mile marker 104. Locals said she kept looking for him, walking the desert night after night, trying to flag someone down who could take her back to Crystal Springs. But the town had been gone for decades, nothing left but a few foundations and a dried-up well. I didn't want to believe him. But then he said, You hear her talk? I hesitated. Yeah. She said something about someone not coming home. He nodded grimly. That's her line. She says it every time. He never came home. My skin prickled. The waitress must have overheard, because she came over and said, You two talking about that ghost again? You know she only shows up to drivers who stop for her. My brother swears he saw her once, but when he pulled over, his engine died. Whole truck shut down. He said he heard a woman crying outside, but couldn't see a thing. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in my cab, engine idling, watching the horizon until dawn. By morning, I convinced myself it had to be exhaustion. Maybe I'd nodded off behind the wheel for a second. Maybe I'd imagined it. That's what I told myself. But a week later, something happened that I still can't explain. I was cleaning out the cab, clearing the dash of receipts and old coffee cups. My CB unit had been acting weird. Lights flickering, static bursts now and then. I turned it on to check the channels, and that same faint hiss came through. Then I heard it again. Her voice. "He never came home," followed by a soft sob. The line went dead. That's when I noticed something. On the passenger seat, where she had sat that night, was a small object, a silver locket. I swear I'd never seen it before. I picked it up and opened it. Inside was a tiny photograph, a man in a suit, smiling. And next to him, the woman. The same woman from the road. The back of the locket was engraved with a date, 1957. I felt the blood drain from my face. I didn't tell anyone. I just wrapped the locket in a rag and shoved it in the glove box. But it didn't end there. Every time I drove through Nevada after that, strange things started happening. My radio would pick up faint voices. Sometimes I'd see a shape in the rearview mirror, a flash of white, gone the moment I looked. Once, during a heavy storm, I heard someone knock on my passenger door while I was parked at a rest stop. 3 slow knocks. When I opened the door, no one was there. I quit long-haul driving 2 years later. The job had taken enough out of me, and truth be told, I couldn't drive that route anymore. But here's the part I don't tell most people. A few months ago, I decided to sell the old truck. It had been sitting on my property for years. When I opened the door for the first time in a long while, I caught a faint smell, lavender and dust. The same scent I remembered from that night. Curious, I checked the glove box. The locket was still there, but the photo inside was different. This time the man's face was gone, scratched out completely. Only the woman remained, smiling faintly, her hand reaching toward the empty space where he used to be. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I went out to the truck again. The air was still, and the desert sky above my property was clear. I climbed into the cab and turned the key, just to see if the radio still worked. Static filled the speakers immediately. Then, through the crackling noise, I heard her voice again, clearer than ever. "You took him home." The engine died. The lights went out, and in the darkness, for just a moment I saw her sitting beside me again. Bare feet, white dress, eyes like glass, smiling in the glow of the dashboard. Then she was gone. I sold the truck the next morning, but sometimes late at night, when I'm driving through town and the radio flickers, I swear I can still hear her. The lady in white of Route 93, still searching for the man who never came home. Or maybe, now she's searching for me. I've driven hundreds of highways across the country, but there's one stretch I'll never forget. Hollow Creek Road, a lonely, winding stretch just outside a small town in West Virginia. Most locals avoid it at night. They say something's out there, something that doesn't belong in this world. I was running a late-night delivery, heading south from Charleston toward Beckley. The fog had settled heavy in the hollows, like the mountains themselves had exhaled and left a blanket over the valley. The moon was barely a sliver, and my headlights cut narrow slices through the mist. The engine hummed beneath me, and the only sound was the tires on wet asphalt. That's when I saw her, a girl, young, maybe 17 or 18, standing by the side of the road. Her hair was dark and soaked from the mist, her clothes clinging to her like she'd been caught in a storm. She was barefoot, holding a small backpack, and her thumb was out, hitchhiking. I slowed. My heart was pounding. Hollow Creek is known for its isolation. You don't leave anyone out there. "Hey," I called through the window. "You need a ride?" She nodded slowly, never taking her eyes off me. "Please," she whispered. I unlocked the door. She climbed in, shivering, and sat quietly, staring straight ahead. The cab smelled of damp hair and pine. I pulled back onto the road, keeping my eyes on the asphalt ahead. "Where to?" I asked. "Just down the road to the Hollow Creek Bridge," she said softly. I frowned. "That's not really a town. Why do you want to go there?" She turned to me then. Her eyes were dark, almost too dark for the foggy night. "I just want to go home," she said. That's when the CB crackled to life. Static first. Then through the hiss, a voice came, trembling, urgent, familiar. "Don't let her in." I froze. The girl didn't flinch. She just stared forward, smiling faintly. "Who's that?" I asked. The radio hissed again, the words repeated. "Don't let her in." I glanced at her, trying to read her expression, but it was blank, empty, too calm. We drove in silence. The fog thickened, swallowing the headlights. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, twisting through the hollow like a snake. Suddenly, I caught a movement in the mirror. Another car? Headlights behind us? No. It was too wide, too bright, like a wall of light pressing toward us. I slammed my foot on the brakes. The figure in the back seat shifted, but only slightly. Her eyes were fixed on the road ahead. I swallowed hard. You've been waiting here a long time, haven't you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She tilted her head. "I've been waiting for someone to take me home," she whispered. The radio crackled again. "Stop the truck, don't—" Static drowned the rest. I looked back. She was gone. Not a trace. Just the empty seat. The backpack still on the floor. My hands shook as I pulled over. Engine still running. I checked the mirrors, the road behind me, the fog. Nothing. I got out. The air was cold, damp, and heavy. I walked around the truck. The fog swirled like smoke. Then I noticed something on the asphalt. Footprints. Small, wet, leading off into the woods. They vanished about 20 feet from the cab. I climbed back in, still shaking. My CB hissed again. "He never came home," the voice whispered, soft and chilling. I didn't know what to do. I drove slowly, staring at the road ahead. The bridge of Hollow Creek appeared out of the mist. Old wooden beams, iron railings, water flowing below. It looked deserted, silent. Then I saw her again. Standing on the edge of the bridge, barefoot, white dress wet, hair plastered to her face. She raised her hand, motioning me closer. "Come on," she whispered. I gripped the wheel tighter. Something in me screamed to turn around, but my curiosity, or maybe my fear, kept me moving. As I got closer, a sudden gust of wind slammed against the truck. Headlights flickered. And then, the bridge beneath us groaned. Not the truck, the wood, the steel, like it was alive, warning us. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding, trying to stop before it was too late. The girl vanished again. Not backward, not sideways, just gone. The CB hissed one last time. He never came home. The words echoed through the fog, or through the hollow, through me. I left Hollow Creek that night, never looking back. I sold the truck soon after. But years later, sometimes I hear the faint crackle of static on old CB units. And sometimes, I swear, I see a figure on the side of the road, waiting, barefoot, pale, and patient. Still looking for someone to take her home. And you can never really leave Hollow Creek because once you've seen her, she's seen you. I've driven some of the loneliest highways in the country, but nothing compared to Route 112, a narrow stretch of road in rural Maine that no one seems to talk about. People avoid it at night. Truckers whisper about it over CB radios, but tourists forget it. They say the road waits, and if you're unlucky, it never lets you leave. I was hauling freight from Portland up to Bangor late autumn. The leaves had turned orange and gold, and the wind carried that biting chill that makes the mountains feel alive, like they're watching. The sun had set hours ago, and the road ahead was nothing but asphalt slicing through the trees, headlights carving through shadows. There's a part of me even now that remembers how beautiful it looked. Quiet, serene, almost peaceful. But that's exactly the trick. The first sign something was off came around mile marker 87. The fog rolled in low, thicker than any I'd seen that year. My rig's headlights barely made it past the edge of the asphalt. The hum of the tires on wet leaves and asphalt was the only sound. But then I felt it, that familiar feeling a trucker knows when something isn't right. A presence. Heavy. Waiting. I glanced in the mirrors. Nothing. Just the fog. I kept driving. About 5 minutes later, I saw a car parked at the side of the road. Old dark green, rusted headlights off. A man was leaning against it. At first, I thought he was just stranded waiting for help. But as I got closer, I realized he was still, not moving at all, arms crossed, staring straight ahead, not waving me down, not signaling, just waiting. I slowed. "You okay, man?" I called out through the open window. No response. Then, in the corner of my mirror, I noticed something behind me. Headlights. Not my own reflection, but another vehicle following. But it wasn't a normal truck. It didn't move like it should. There was no vibration, no engine hum, just lights floating in the fog, following me too closely. I tightened my grip on the wheel. The radio crackled. Static first, then a voice, hoarse and trembling. "Don't stop. Don't look back." I cursed under my breath. CB ghosts? Great. My first thought was it was some prankster, but the voice had a weight to it, urgency I couldn't ignore. The road ahead narrowed as it wound through a forested ridge. My headlights illuminated nothing but trees and fog. Every curve made my stomach churn. My rig felt heavier, like the asphalt was gripping the tires and refusing to let me move. Then I saw her, a girl, standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, white dress soaked from the fog. She didn't move as I braked, just stared at me. Hair wet, hanging over her face. I slammed on the horn, nothing. She didn't flinch, didn't step aside. She just stood there, calm and still, watching me. I swerved, barely avoiding her. My heart was hammering. When I glanced in the mirrors, she was gone. No footprints, nothing disturbed on the asphalt. Just gone. I drove faster, trying to shake the image. The radio crackled again. The same voice. She waits for them who stop. My hands shook. I couldn't tell if I was shaking from cold or fear. I pulled over to the shoulder, needing to catch my breath. The rig idled quietly, but the fog pressed closer, wrapping the truck in a suffocating blanket of mist. I stepped out, flashlight in hand, shining into the fog. Nothing. The forest looked normal. The road looked normal. But I felt it, that presence, following, waiting. I climbed back in, closed the door, and kept moving. Every mile felt like an eternity. The fog never lifted. Every turn seemed longer, sharper. I started noticing other things, objects on the side of the road. A bicycle leaning against a tree, a backpack, even shoes, scattered like someone had been there, then disappeared. None of it moved when I got closer, just there. Silent. Waiting. Hours passed. I checked the clock. Couldn't be more than 30 minutes since I'd passed the first mile marker with the fog. And yet the landscape hadn't changed. Same trees, same curve, same mist. I started feeling dizzy. Time felt like it stretched. My rig's engine growled beneath me, tires slipping on wet leaves. Then a shape appeared ahead. A pickup truck, headlights off, parked sideways, blocking the road. No driver. Doors open, smoke rising from the hood. I slammed the brakes, heart in my throat. I radioed in. Breaker 19, anyone near mile 90? There's a truck. Static. And then, from the CB, you should have never come here. My stomach sank. The truck in front of me began to move. Slowly. Tires barely making a sound on the asphalt. The fog shimmered around it like heat waves on pavement, and then a man appeared in the driver's seat. Pale, eyes dark, thin lips curling into a smile. I realized with horror it was the same man I'd seen at the side of the road earlier. He had never moved. He had never left. I slammed the rig into reverse, tires spinning, the engine screaming. The fog seemed to resist me, thickening, pressing against the truck like it was alive. The CB crackled again. Don't leave, or she'll take you. I didn't understand. Who? What? The girl? The man? The fog? I floored the gas, swerving past the pickup, and the rig shuddered violently. Tires skidded on the wet leaves. Something slammed against the trailer. Not hard enough to tip it, but enough to make my chest jump. I glanced in the mirror. The girl was there, standing in the middle of the fog behind me, smiling faintly. Hair plastered to her face, dress wet, eyes empty. The CB hissed, voice cracking. He never came home. And then suddenly, silence. The fog lifted as quickly as it had come. The road stretched ahead, dark and empty. The pickup and the man, gone. The girl, gone. Only the sound of my breathing, the tires on the road, and the steady hum of the rig. I didn't stop. I drove straight through to Bangor, heart still hammering. I told myself it was a hallucination, fatigue, a trick of the fog. But every time I passed mile 87, I remembered her eyes, the way the fog pressed against the truck, the voice on the radio. Months later, curiosity got the better of me. I drove back during daylight. Hollow trees, winding road, no fog, nothing unusual. I parked on the side to look around. The road seemed normal, serene even. But then, at the curve near mile 90, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A small memorial, simple and weathered. Flowers, a candle, a photograph of a young girl. The plaque read her name. Died 30 years ago, hit by a truck while walking home. The exact same curve. The exact same fog. I swallowed hard. And then I realized The CB radio had never stopped. It was sitting in the cab, silent, unplugged, and yet sometimes, late at night, I could still hear it. Faint static at first, then her voice. "Help me. Come home." I sold the rig soon after. I never drove Route 112 at night again. I don't talk about it much. People would call me crazy, but anyone who's driven it knows the truth. The road waits. Always. And if you stop, if you even slow down, it will find a way to keep you there. And sometimes late at night, I swear I see her, standing barefoot in the fog, white dress clinging to her, hair plastered to her face, eyes hollow, smiling, waiting for someone to stop, waiting for someone to come home. Because Route 112 doesn't just swallow cars or people or trucks. It swallows time, memory, and if it wants, it swallows souls. I should have never taken that road at night. I should have turned around. But like the others, curiosity and fear drove me forward, and now I know some roads don't let you leave. I've been driving the highways for almost 20 years now. I've seen every kind of strange thing you can imagine out on those endless stretches of asphalt. Weird lights over the desert. People walking miles from anywhere. Cars sitting empty with the doors wide open and the engine still running. But there's one story I don't tell often. Not because I don't believe it happened. I know it did. I just wish I could forget. It was late October, about 5 years ago. I was headed north on Highway 61, cutting through a long, rural stretch that runs past a string of small towns most folks never even notice. The kind of road where the lights from your cab are the only thing separating you from complete darkness. It was just past midnight, fog low and heavy, and the kind of cold that seeps through the glass. The CB had been quiet for miles. Most truckers had pulled off for the night, so it was just me, a cup of lukewarm coffee, and the hum of the tires against the pavement. I remember thinking about how the fog made everything look softer, like the world was wrapped in cotton. But there was something else about it. A heaviness, like the air itself didn't want me there. I was about 2 miles south of an old overpass when I first saw her. At first, I thought it was my eyes playing tricks. There was movement up ahead, a pale shape, small, standing at the edge of the overpass railing. My headlights caught it just right, and I realized it was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 16. Long, dark hair, white dress, just standing there, barefoot, on the cold concrete. I slowed down, the instinct kicking in before reason caught up. Out here, you stop when someone looks like they're in trouble. But as I got closer, I realized something was wrong. The fog was rolling thick under the bridge, and as my beams hit the spot where she was standing, she didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't even seem to notice the sound of my engine. She just looked out into nothing. I pulled onto the shoulder, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out. The air was dead quiet. No crickets, no wind. Just the hum of my cooling engine behind me. I called out to her, "Hey, you all right up there?" Nothing. She just turned her head slowly, and I swear it felt like she was looking right through me. I climbed up the embankment toward the overpass, the gravel crunching under my boots, the only sound. Every step closer, the air felt heavier, like walking into a place that didn't want me in it. When I reached the top, she was still there, standing just inches from the edge. Her dress looked old, like something from another decade. Lace sleeves, faded at the hem, torn near the bottom. "Miss?" I tried again. You shouldn't be out here. It's dangerous. She finally turned to face me, and that's when my stomach dropped. Her face was pale, too pale, like porcelain, the kind that cracks if you touch it wrong. And her eyes, they weren't looking at me, they were looking past me as if she was seeing something behind me that I couldn't. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing but my truck down below, headlights cutting through the fog. When I looked back, she was gone. Not a sound, not a step, just gone. I ran to the edge of the overpass and looked down, thinking maybe she'd jumped, maybe she'd slipped, but there was nothing. Just the empty road and my own heartbeat in my ears. I stood there for a long time trying to convince myself it was a trick of the fog. Maybe I'd imagined it, maybe it was a reflection. But then I heard something, faint, carried by the air. A voice. It was soft, distant, like someone calling from under the bridge. Help me. I froze. I shined my flashlight down through the gaps in the concrete, and for a split second I saw her again, below the bridge this time. Standing in the middle of the road, her dress soaked, her hair dripping like she'd just come up from a river. And then headlights. Not mine. They came out of the fog fast, blinding white, and I heard the screech of tires, the crunch of metal, the deafening impact. And then silence. When I scrambled back down to the road, there was nothing, no car, no girl, no wreck, just the fog, drifting by like nothing had happened. I got back in my truck, hands shaking, heart pounding. I started the engine and just sat there, staring at the road. And then my CB crackled to life, loud enough to make me jump. A man's voice came through, panicked, broken. Did anyone see her? The girl, she ran out in front of me. Oh, God. Static. I picked up the mic. Who is this? You all right out there? No answer, just more static. I drove the next 50 miles with the radio off. I didn't want to hear anything else. When I finally stopped at a rest area, I told another driver about what I'd seen. He went quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. That overpass, he said. You saw her, didn't you? I frowned. What do you mean? He leaned closer, voice low. There's been stories about that stretch since the 80s. Girl got hit by a drunk driver walking home from prom. Some say she never left. Drivers see her standing on that bridge, trying to warn people before another crash happens. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know if I believed it. But that night, I dreamt of her. She was standing on the overpass again. Same white dress, same vacant stare. Only this time, when she turned to face me, her eyes were full of tears. She whispered something I couldn't hear. When I woke up, my CB was on, though I know I'd turned it off. And through the static, I heard the faintest voice. Help me. I didn't drive that route again for a long time after that. A few months later, curiosity got the better of me. I was running a delivery up north and decided to take Highway 61 again, just to see. The weather was clear, no fog this time, and the moon was high. I told myself it would all look different in daylight. But when I got to that overpass, I saw something that made me hit the brakes. A small memorial by the guardrail, flowers, a candle, a photo in a cracked frame. The picture showed a young girl with long dark hair, smiling in a white prom dress. I don't know what made me do it, but I looked closer. And that's when I saw the dates on the little plaque. She died exactly 30 years ago that night. As I stood there, the wind picked up, rushing past me like a whisper. I swear I heard her voice again, just behind me, soft, pleading. Help me. I turned. No one there. But on the far end of the overpass in the fading light, I saw her, just for a second. The girl in the white dress, standing where I'd seen her before, watching, waiting. And then she stepped back into the fog and was gone. That was the last time I took Highway 61. But sometimes late at night, when I'm driving alone and the road stretches out in front of me, I'll see an overpass in the distance. And for just a moment, I'll think I see her standing there, waiting for someone to stop. And even though I know better now, I still slow down, just in case. I've spent the better part of 20 years on the road, and I've learned a few things. 1, never underestimate the loneliness of a highway at night. 2, never trust the fog that rolls in heavy and fast. And 3, some places, some stretches of road, aren't meant for the living. Devil's Bend, in northern Georgia, is one of those places. I first heard about it from an old-timer at a truck stop in Knoxville. He was polishing his coffee cup with a rag, eyes distant, as if the memory of it had cost him something. "Don't stop at Devil's Bend after midnight," he said. "Some things wait for you there. Some things that won't let go." I laughed. I was young, cocky, and I'd been on every highway from coast to coast. Ghost stories didn't scare me. I'd seen things, sure, but nothing that couldn't be explained. Still, his words stuck in the back of my mind as I rolled south, heading toward Atlanta with a load of produce. It was late October. The sky had gone black, and the moon was barely a sliver above the tree line. The road stretched ahead, narrow and twisting through the mountains. The wind whistled through the cab, carrying the scent of wet pine and something else, coppery. Blood? I shook my head. Too much coffee. Too much imagination. About an hour past Chattanooga, I hit the bend. The road narrows there, winding around cliffs and old forests. There's a small truck stop on the right, Devil's Bend Truck Stop. Barely a building with a flickering neon sign and a handful of pumps. Empty. Closed. Or so I thought. That's when I saw her. A woman. Young, maybe 25, standing by one of the pumps. Pale, long, dark hair hanging down in wet strands. Black coat that looked more like a funeral coat than winter wear. She was looking right at me, thumb out. Hitchhiker, out here, alone, at midnight. I slowed. "You okay?" I asked through the open window. She didn't move at first, then slowly she lifted a hand. Not waving, but beckoning. A smile. Small, sad, almost hungry. I debated. I knew the stories. Truckers disappear out here, people vanish at Devil's Bend, but something about her, the look in her eyes, drew me. I pulled over and unlocked the door. She climbed in silently. No bag, no luggage. Just her presence, like the fog itself had taken shape. I swallowed hard. "Where to?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just down the road to the old highway," she said softly. I need a ride." I frowned. "That's just woods. No one lives there." She tilted her head. "I know. I just need to go home." That's when the CB radio crackled. Static first, loud enough to make me jump. Then a voice, low and trembling. "Don't stop. Don't let her in." I froze. She turned slightly, eyes narrowing. "What's that?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Probably some kid on the CB. But my gut told me otherwise." The road narrowed. Trees arched over us, branches scraping the trailer. The fog rolled in thick, clinging to the cab like cold smoke. I could feel it pressing against the tires, making the rig feel heavier, sluggish. Then movement in the mirrors. Another car? Number. Headlights. Floating lights, far too bright, too wide. Following too closely. I clenched the wheel. You been waiting here long? I asked her, voice barely steady. She smiled faintly. I've been waiting for someone to take me home. The CB hissed again. Stop, or you'll never leave. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, heart hammering, but the rig didn't respond as it should. Tires skidded on wet leaves. The fog thickened, curling around the truck like it had weight. Something slammed against the trailer, not enough to tip it, but enough to make my chest jump. I glanced back. She was smiling, pale, wet hair plastered to her face. Barely moving, barely breathing, watching. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Then I noticed the clock. Hours had passed, not minutes, hours. I remembered seeing mile markers flash by, but nothing else. The landscape hadn't changed. Same trees, same curves, same fog. Time was gone. A truck appeared ahead, headlights dim, engine silent. It blocked the road completely, doors open, a man inside, pale, eyes dark, lips curling into a smile I will never forget. The same man I realized I'd seen leaning against the pump outside the truck stop earlier, but he hadn't moved, couldn't have, and yet there he was. I slammed into reverse, tires spinning, the rig shaking violently. The CB crackled. He never came home. My heart nearly stopped. The girl leaned forward, voice soft. You can't leave me. I floored the gas, swerving past the truck. The rig shuddered. Something cold brushed the back of my neck. My skin crawled. I didn't dare look. The fog lifted as suddenly as it had come. The road was empty. The pickup gone. The man gone. The girl gone. I drove straight through to Atlanta without stopping. I told myself it was hallucination, fatigue, stress. Maybe I'd imagined the CB, the truck, the woman. Maybe it was just the fog. Months later, curiosity gnawed at me. I returned to Devil's Bend during daylight. Truck stop still there, abandoned. The highway stretched straight and empty. I parked and walked around. And then I saw it. A memorial. Flowers, a candle, a photograph of a young woman, dark hair, white blouse. The plaque read her name and the date she died, 30 years ago. Struck by a truck. On this very curve, at midnight, I shivered. The wind whispered through the trees. And then I heard her voice. Faint, pleading, carried through the leaves. Help me, come home. I didn't return to that road again. I sold the rig. I avoid late-night routes in Georgia now. But sometimes, when I'm driving alone and the road stretches dark ahead, I swear I see her, standing barefoot on the shoulder, hair wet, dress clinging, waiting. Devil's Bend doesn't just take lives. It traps them. It waits. And if you slow down, even for a second, it will find a way to make you stay. I should have never stopped. I should have kept driving. But some people are impossible to ignore. And the CB sometimes crackles, even now. It's just static at first, then her voice. Help me, come home. And I know, deep down, she's still waiting. The shadows fade, but the chills linger. Thank you for joining Midnight Haunting Radio. and subscribe for more haunting tales to unsettle your nights.